During the year 636, the Arab forces of the Rashidun Caliphate had begun to make their presence known throughout the Middle Eastern peninsula. The Muslim commander Khalid ibn al-Walid had secured what was one of Islam's greatest victories against the titan that was the Byzantine Empire at the Battle of Yarmouk. Their victory at Yarmouk sent shockwaves across the lands, striking fear into the hearts of the Byzantine and Sassanid empires alike, whom after 30 years of previous wars with one another were left vulnerable to the growing Islamic power in the region. The Muslim Caliph, Umar, had started to raise new armies from throughout Arabia with the intention of re-invading the now vulnerable Sassanid Empire. Caliph Umar appointed Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas, an important member of the Quraysh tribe, as commander of this army. Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas was the seventh person to embrace Islam and a companion of the Prophet Muhammad. The sheer presence of such a respected Muslim general united the Arab tribes into a great army. In May 636, Sa'd was instructed to march to northern Arabia with a contingent of 4,000 men from his camp at Sisra, near Medina, and take over command of the Muslim army and immediately march onward to Iraq. Because of his inexperience as a general, he was instructed by Caliph Umar to seek the advice of experienced commanders before making critical decisions. Umar sent orders to him to halt at Al-Qadisiyah, a small town 30 miles from Kufa. After a decisive victory against the Byzantine army at the Battle of Yarmouk, Caliph Umar sent immediate orders to Abu Ubaidah to send a contingent of veteran reinforcements to Al-Qadisiyah. In addition, a later force of 5,000 veterans of Yarmouk was also sent to Qadisiyah, arriving on the second day of the battle, which proved to be a pivotal point in the Arab-Sassanid battle. The Arabs had been camped at Al-Qadisiyah with 30,000 men since July 636, including 7,000 cavalry. Its strength rose to 36,000 members once it was reinforced by the contingent from Syria and by local Arab allies. Umar ordered Sa'd to send emissaries to Yazdegerd III and the general of the Sasanian army, Rostam Farrokhzad, inviting them to convert to Islam. For the next 3 months, negotiations between the Arabs and Sassanians continued. The Sassanid army under the command of Rostam reached Qadisiyah in July of 636 and established their highly fortified camps on the eastern bank of the Atiq River. There was a bridge over the Atiq River, the only crossing to the main Sassanid camps, although they had boats available in reserve to cross the river. The Sassanid army, about 60,000 strong, fell into 3 main categories: infantry, heavy cavalry, and the Elephant Corps. The Elephant Corps was also known as the Indian Corps, for the elephants were trained and brought from Persian provinces in India. On 16th November 636, the Sassanid army crossed over the west bank of Atiq, and Rostam deployed his 45,000 infantry in 4 divisions, each about 150 meters apart from the other. 15,000 cavalry were divided among 4 divisions to be used as a reserve for counterattack and offensives. At Qadisiyah, the battlefront was about 4 kilometers long. The Sassanid right wing was commanded by Hormuzan, the right center by Jalinus, the rear guard by Piruzan, and the left wing by Mihran. Rostam himself was stationed at an elevated seat, shaded by a canopy, near the west bank of the river and behind the right center, where he enjoyed a wide view of the battlefield. By his side waved the Darafsh-e-Kaveyan, the standard of the Sassanid Persians. Rostam placed men at certain intervals between the battlefield and the Sassanid capital, Ctesiphon, to transmit information. Rostam Farrokhzad was inclined, however, to avoid fighting and once more opened peace negotiations. Sa'd sent Rabi bin Amir and later Mughira bin Zurara to hold talks. Rostam tried to incite Arabs to choose a peaceful outcome. "You are neighbors. Some of you were in our land, and we were considerate of them and protected them from harm. We helped them in all manners. They brought their herd to graze in our pastures. We gave them foodstuff from our land. We let them trade in our land. their livelihood was in good order. When there was a drought in your land and you asked us for help, we sent you dates and barley. I know that you are here because you are poor. I will order that your commander receives clothing and a horse with 1,000 dirhams, and that each of you receive a load of dates and 2 sets of clothing, so that you leave our land, because I don't want to take you prisoner or kill you." But the emissaries insisted that Persians had to choose between becoming Muslim, paying jizya, or making war. After the negotiations fell through, both sides prepared for battle. The battle opened up with a Sassanid barrage of arrows, causing havoc on the Muslim lines. The Muslim archers returned arrow fire, though their inferior bows and arrows were not very effective against the superior heavy armor of the Sassanid soldiers. Rostam began the battle by ordering his left wing to attack the Muslims' right wing. Elephants led the charge from the Sassanid side. Abdullah ibn al-Mutim, the Muslim commander of the right wing, ordered Jarir ibn Abdullah, cavalry commander of the right wing, to deal with the Sassanid elephants. However, Jarir's cavalry, fearful of the large elephants, would not advance forward. The elephants continued to advance, and the Muslim infantry braced for the brutal onslaught. With the Muslim right being pushed hard, Saad had to act swiftly to prevent his flank from collapsing. He sent orders to Al-Ashath ibn Qais, commander of the center-right cavalry regiment, to check the Sassanid advance. Al-Ashath then led a cavalry regiment that reinforced the Muslim right and launched a counterattack at the flank of the Sassanid left. The Muslim cavalry were successful with their flanking maneuver. They were able to halt the Sassanid advance and slowly push back the aggressors. The Muslim commander Asim ordered his archers to kill the men on elephants and ordered the infantry to cut the girths of the saddles. The tactic worked, leading to the elephants being withdrawn and retired from the battlefield. Whilst this was happening, Rostam had ordered his left center to advance on the Muslims' right center. With the Sassanids' initial attacks repulsed, Rostam ordered his right center and right wing to advance against the Muslim left wing and left center. These sections were hit hard by the intense arrow fire during the initial Sassanid barrage, then followed by a mass charge of heavy Sassanid infantry. Rostam had full confidence in his Sassanid soldiers. They were better equipped and more experienced in battle compared to their Muslim adversaries, whom fought ferociously, courageously, and ever determined, as if God himself was watching over them on the battlefield. The fighting was brutal, neither side giving any quarter. The Sassanid army's center retreated, followed by the retreat of the entire right wing. By afternoon, the Sassanid attacks on the Muslim left wing and left center were also beaten back. Rostam ordered an orderly retreat, which the Sassanids were able to execute. The Muslim commander Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas wanted to exploit this opportunity. He ordered a counterattack. The Muslim infantry led the lines, plunging right into the tired Sassanid infantry. Followed closely behind was the Muslim cavalry, whom Sa'd had planned to use in an attempt to flank the Sassanids' position. Tired and depleted from the day's fighting, Rostam had to quickly reorganize his men to brace for the oncoming counterattack. He then personally took command of his cavalry at the rear, instructing them to hold their positions. The Muslim cavalry then charged from the flanks with full force into the exposed gaps in Rostam's formation, a tactic known as Kar Wafar. Rostam gave the order for his cavalry to meet the Muslims head-on, preventing them from attacking their exposed flanks and stopping them in their tracks. The Muslim attacks were eventually repulsed by Rostam, who plunged into the fray personally and is said to have received several wounds. As night approached, the Muslims, unable to gain any advantage, disengaged, and withdrew back to their camp. The first day of battle was inconclusive, with considerable losses on both sides. The following day at noon, reinforcements from Syria arrived for the Muslim army. First, an advance guard under Al-Qaqa ibn Amr al-Tamimi arrived, followed by the main army under its commander Hashim ibn Utbah, nephew of Sa'd. Qaqa divided his advance guard into several small groups and instructed them to reach the battlefield one after the other, giving the impression that a very large contingent of reinforcements had arrived. This strategy had a very demoralizing effect on the Sassanid opposition. Now, with fresh contingents of Arab reinforcements from Syria, and a fully rested army alongside the fact that there were no longer fighting elephants in the Sassanid force that day, Sa'd sought to exploit this opportunity to gain any breakthrough if possible, so he ordered a general attack. All four Muslim contingents surged forward to give battle. The Muslims pressed hard, trading blow for blow with their Sassanid foes. But the Sassanids stood firm and repulsed repeated attacks. The Muslims withdrew from the fighting, giving themselves as well as the Sassanids a chance to reorganize and catch their breath. During the Muslim withdrawal, the Sassanids had drawn up their heavy cavalry to charge at the Muslims. Muslim commander Qaqa, noticing this, resorted to an ingenious idea of camouflaging camels to look like strange monsters, then moving these monsters to the front of the Muslim lines. Seeing them, the Sassanid horses were fearful. They turned and bolted. The disorganization of the Sassanid cavalry left their left center infantry vulnerable. Saad, wanting to take advantage of this opportunity, ordered the Muslims to once again engage in a head-on attack. Muslim commander Kaka ibn Amr planned to kill Rostam and led a group of Mubarizuns from his Syrian contingent, who were also veterans of the Battle of Yarmouk, through the Sassanids' right center towards Rostam's headquarters. Rostam once again personally led a counterattack against the Muslims and was able to quell any breakthrough. At dusk, the two armies pulled back to their camps. On the third day of battle, Rostam had opted for a quick victory before any more Muslim reinforcements could arrive. Pressing this advantage, Rostam ordered a general attack along the Muslim front, using his entire force. All four Sassanid contingents moved forward and struck the Muslim front. The Sassanids pressed the attack with infantry at the forefront, archers and cavalry at the rear. This all-out assault forced the Muslim cavalry to pull back behind their lines. By this stage, the Muslims had finally succeeded in mutilating or killing any remaining Sassanid war elephants. The remaining frightened elephant corps rushed through the Sassanid ranks and made for the river. By noon, no elephants were left on the battlefield, turning the tide of the battle. Many gaps had appeared in the Muslim ranks because of the Sassanid advance. Rostam, acting swiftly, sent a cavalry regiment to capture the old palace where Saad was stationed. Rostam's strategy was to kill the Muslim commander-in-chief, or at the very least, take him captive to demoralize the Muslims. However, a strong cavalry contingent of Muslims rushed to counter their advance and successfully held back the Sassanid cavalry. The third day of the battle was the hardest for both armies. There were heavy casualties on both sides, and the battlefield was strewn with the dead bodies of fallen warriors. Despite the fatigue after 3 days of battle, the armies continued the fight, which raged through the night and ended at dawn. In the Muslim chronicles, the third day of the battle is known as Yawm ul-Amas, and the night as Laylatul Harir, meaning the night of rumbling noises. On the fourth and final day of the battle, the fighting had ceased, but the battle was still inconclusive. Muslim commander Kaka, with the consent of Saad, was now acting as the field commander of the Muslim troops. He is reported to have addressed his men as follows: "If we fight for an hour or so more, the enemy will be defeated. So, warriors of Bani Tamim, make one more attempt, and victory will be yours." The Muslims' left center, led by Kaka, surged forward and attacked the Sassanid center, looking to kill Rostam and put an end to the battle. In the midst of a sandstorm, Commander Kaka and his men were able to slip behind the Sassanid main force and head directly toward the Sassanid general Rostam. The Sassanid general and his guard were isolated and disoriented due to the sandstorm. Kaka and his men were able to find Rostam and swiftly slay the Sassanid commander. The Sassanids continued to fight on until word of the death of their leader had begun to spread throughout the ranks, leading to a mass panic and retreat across the river. The great Muslim victory was secured. With its largest army and finest commander dismantled, the Sassanid Empire was now left weakened and fully exposed to Islamic conquest.